Greetings, everybody. How you doing? I wanted to discuss a little bit about the team that is currently waiting for an opponent in the 2022 Stanley Cup Final. And I wanted to discuss a little bit about how the Colorado Avalanche were built into the absolute juggernaut machine right now that they are. I mean, they have the things they've done so far has just been insane. And I was thinking earlier, looking at what they've done, for either the Tampa Bay Lightning or the New York Rangers to win the Stanley Cup. You obviously you have to win 4 out of 7. You know, we all know this. That literally means for either the Rangers or the Lightning to win the Stanley Cup, they have to give double the amount of losses to the Colorado Avalanche in one round than Colorado has suffered in 3 rounds total. This entire playoff run, they've lost 2 games, swept 2 opponents. These guys are just they have been the best team in the league from start to finish this year. And yes, I know Florida won the President's Trophy. Who cares? The best team all around from start to finish were these guys. And so I wanted to discuss a little bit how they built this team to where they are. So, but before I get into that, I'd like to welcome you all. And if you're new to the channel, if this is the first time that you're tuning in, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy the video. If you enjoy it, hit that like button. If you really enjoy it, hit that subscribe button. Hopefully you'll think that I do a good enough job to earn a subscription from you. And so, without any further ado, let's get into a little history of these guys. Now, I have said this on a few occasions to some other friends of mine that this is the kind of thing the Minnesota Wild should do. Be bad for a bit. Don't worry about, trying to, let's get, little pieces here, let's be able to get into the playoffs and, get into that first round and yeah. No. I've said for a long time to a number of friends of mine when the Wild have missed the playoffs the last few years up until this year, I'm like, they need to be bad for about 2 or 3 years. I mean bad. Like draft lottery bad. Because that's how this team was built. That's how they built this team. This team had a couple of really bad seasons. And then they had a couple of good seasons. But they had especially 2 of them. Now, one of them was a shortened season, and the other one, it was just they were so bad. But it all kind of starts in the 2010-2011 season. They played 82 games. They had a record of 30, 44, and 8. 68 points. No playoffs. That was good enough for the number 2 overall draft pick in that year's entry draft. And that number 2 draft pick was Gabriel Landeskog, the man who has been the captain of this team for a number of years now. That's one piece. So, and again, and they, and this is where, they're kind of building. And again, it's a couple years. We have the lockout shortened season of 2012-2013, where they played 48 games, had a record of 16 wins, 25 losses, and 7 overtime or shootout losses for 39 points. No playoffs, obviously. But where did they end up getting in? What did they end up picking in the draft lottery? They got the number 1 overall pick in the draft lottery that year for 2012-2013. And who was that pick? Nathan MacKinnon. So you've got Landeskog and you've got MacKinnon. So you're already kind of getting the core of this team. And this is a while back. I mean, this is dating back. This is 2010. This is starting in 2010, 2011. So this is 12 years. This is over the span of 12 years. But you're getting the core of this team together. So you start out with Landeskog, the number 2 pick in the 2011 draft. Then you get MacKinnon, the number 1 pick in 2013. Well, then you get 2014, they did, not too bad. But 2014-15 was when they picked up another key cog to this machine here. 2014-2015, they played 82 games. They had a record of 39, 31, and 12. A 90-point season. Pretty good. It's a good building block. Still not good enough for the playoffs, but they ended up drafting in the draft lottery. They ended up with the number 10 pick. The fact this guy fell to them at number 10 just blows my mind still. When I look back on that, and I'm like, how did these other teams pass on him? They drafted at number 10 that year, Mikko Rantanen. So you have the top line now. You have the main 3 guys on that top line that is right now. I mean, it's easy to say, we can just stop that top line. Yeah, it's easy to say that. It's a lot tougher to do. And a lot of people thought, for the longest time, they're just a one line team. If you can shut down Landeskog, MacKinnon, and Rantanen, okay, hey, you can stop them. Again, easier said than done. But then in 2017, this is the really bad year. I mean, you've got MacKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen, but the wheels just fell off of this team. I mean, it was like a plane, just, they're flying, and then all of a sudden just crash landed in 2016-17. 82 games played, 22-56-4 record, 48 points. Horrible. Probably the worst season that they had ever had during their time in Colorado. We can go back to their history in Quebec. In the late 80s, early 90s, they had the one season where they won 12 games. That was Quebec. But this particular season was probably the worst season that they had ever had. The entire time that they were in Colorado. So 22-56-4, 48 points, obviously no playoffs. And I think if I remember right, that was the worst record in the league that year. And they didn't end up winning the draft lottery. They ended up getting the number 4 pick because I believe that the Duchesne, that came with the Duchesne trade to Ottawa. So they got Ottawa's pick, which ended up being number 4. And who did they draft at number 4 in that spot in the 2017 entry draft? Cale Makar. You've got the main 3 guys. You've got MacKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen. Now you got the big guy on the blue line, the offensive defenseman. I mean, I've heard comparisons of Ray Bourque with him. Now, if you're going to throw out Ray Bourque's name, that's some high praise, and we're seeing what Makar has become since he has come into the league, and holy mackerel, is he something? You don't want to just put the puck on his stick, because he'll beat you. He's lethal. But then they so they've kind of got the core there. And then in 2018-19, they make the playoffs. They finally make the playoffs. And it's not the greatest amount. I mean, oddly enough, they end up making the playoffs with the same amount of points as a few years before, when they didn't make the playoffs. 2018-2019, 82 games played, 38 wins, 30 losses, 14 ties. Good enough for 90 points. It gets them into the number 2 wild card, though. So they get into the number 2 wild card that year. They're going up against the Calgary Flames, who had the best record in the Western Conference. They were the number 1 overall seed in the Western Conference. And Colorado they came out and they smoked them. I mean, you've got McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar, who are they're just on fire. They are just on fire. And they beat Calgary in 5 games. They knocked them out in 5 games, and that's when you're thinking, "Oh, okay, this could be interesting." Well, then they go into the second round. They go out and they lose in the second round, but it went all 7 games. This was, I believe, they lost to San Jose in the second round, because then San Jose ended up playing St. Louis, and St. Louis ended up winning the Stanley Cup. But they went against San Jose, and they went all 7 games. And I mean, it was that close. I mean, it very easily could have been St. Louis and Colorado in that conference final. So you've got the main building blocks of this team. And now they've started to acquire some depth in there. This is when they got guys. I think I'm not sure if 18-19 if they had gotten Kadri yet. But they were starting to get some pretty good depth. So it wasn't just, McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, and Makar that you had to worry about. You had to worry about some of the really good depth players. And of course, at that time you had, I believe it was Grubauer, I think was in net for him. And Grubauer was doing pretty well. Doing pretty well in Colorado. But, so then, after that season, that's when they really started getting good. They started getting really good, but this is where the disappointment starts. 2019, they lost in the first round. 2020, they go into the bubble, they lose in the second round. This is when a lot of people are picking them to win the Stanley Cup, me included. So they go into the bubble, they lose in the second round there. Then last year, same thing, 2020, 2021, they lose again in the second round. And again, they're picked to go all the way to the finals. They're a great team, great record, but they're underachieving. They're doing some serious underachieving. Now, mind you, who they picked up in that 2018-19 draft at, again, I believe it was number 4. Yeah, it was number 4 for him. For him also. They drafted Bowen Byram. So they got another really good defenseman. So you've got the makings of a line that is just lethal. I mean, McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar, Byram. I mean, and now you've got guys like Kadri. You've got Eric Johnson. You've got some really, really good depth players. It's not just that first line that will kill you. You might be able to slow down that first line, but you've got those other lines. And then coming into this year, and again, I picked them again to go all the way to the finals. And this year, this is the year they came out and they have just been a beast. They have been the beast of the league from start to finish, from start to where they are now. They were the best team the entire way. Again, I understand Florida won the President's Trophy. Colorado didn't care about that. They just cared about having the best team that they could put together. And this is a team. They built this team over a span of 12 years. And this is why I've said, it's not a bad thing. And like I said, I've said this about the Minnesota Wild, that I wish there were a couple they would be bad for a few years to maybe get into that draft lottery and get one of those high draft picks, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Get one of those higher draft picks. Because I don't think the Wild have ever picked higher than 5th. I'm trying to think the year Gaborik was drafted. I think that was the highest they had picked, and I think actually that might have been that one. They might have been third or 4th, but that's the highest they've ever been. They've never won the draft lottery to get the number 1 pick. And when you look at some of the players that have come out, I'd love for the Wild to get some of those guys. And like I said, I wish the Wild would have been bad for a couple of years to build your team like this, because this is how you build a team into a champion. It's taken a long time. It's taken 3 very underachieving years. The one year was not really underachieving because they were the number 2 wild card. They weren't really expected to even get out of the first round against Calgary that year, but they did. And they almost made the conference finals in 2019. And then, of course, 2020, 2021, again, back-to-back disappointing years, losing in the second round both times. So, here they are. And this is a team, they last won the Stanley Cup, it was 2001. So, and that's the last time they were in the finals. So, we're going back 21 years. It's been 21 years since the Colorado Avalanche have played for the Stanley Cup. And by building the team like they have, this is the result. They come into this season, they're blowing everybody away. They're just, they steamrolled the division. They won the division. That division was over like halfway through the season. It wasn't even close. And they looked like a monster. They've looked like a monster all year. And they get into the playoffs. And they get into the playoffs, they start off against Nashville, and granted, Nashville was on their second string goaltender, but I don't think it would have mattered. It was not going to matter whether the starting goaltender would have been in there or not, because Colorado just was not going to be denied. So they play Nashville, and they smoke them 4-0, 4-0 sweep, and they made it look easy. They get into the second round, they're playing the St. Louis Blues, the one team that actually gave them some competition, that actually was pushing them. But they ended up beating them. They ended up beating them in 6 games. And again, you've got a goaltender. The goaltenders of the last couple of runs was Philip Grubauer, and Francouz. Well, this year they go out and they get Darcy Kemper. Now he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, but they get Kemper to be the starting goaltender with Francouz as the backup. And even when Kemper has gone down with injury, Francouz has stepped up and stepped in and has been fantastic. So they play St. Louis. St. Louis gave them a good run, but they beat St. Louis in 6. They finally get the second round monkey off their back. They can't get out of the second round. Well, now they got out of the second round. And I had even looked that it wasn't going to matter. To me, it wasn't going to matter what team came out of the Pacific Division. They were going to have to run into Colorado, and it didn't matter who it was. They were going to get smoked. And in the bracket challenge, I had Calgary coming out of the Pacific Division. I had them beating Edmonton in the second round. But I also had Calgary getting absolutely destroyed. And that's basically what happened to the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers come into this series, there's a lot of hype, but Colorado, they are on another level. And they beat the Oilers 4 straight. And the Oilers, they finally, they had a lead in that fourth game. They had a 3-1 and a 4-2 lead. And they couldn't hold Colorado down. Colorado would not stay down. And this is what's going to make them so tough to beat in the finals. Because whether it's Tampa Bay or whether it's New York, to go against these guys, to beat these guys 4 times out of 7 when they've only lost 2 games the entire playoff, you're going to have to be a hell of a special team. And boy, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see whether Andrei Vasilevsky or Igor Shesterkin, can they hang in with this lethal combination of McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar, Byram. I can't say Kadri, unfortunately, because he's out for, I think, the rest of the playoffs. But I mean, guys like Lehkonen, Obi Kubel, just some of these other depth players, they all seem to mesh so well. I don't know if these guys can be stopped. I really don't. In the bracket challenge, I had Tampa playing Colorado in the finals. I had Tampa winning. I'm kind of wavering on that one. I really am, because I've watched the way these guys have played and just how fast they are, how skilled. They've only lost 2 games the entire postseason. And they've been, without a doubt, they've been the best team in the entire league all year long. So they definitely deserve to be here. They've built this team into the machine that they are right now. They've built this team starting back in 2010 with some relatively bad seasons. They really did. They had a couple of bad seasons. Only one of the years out of those 5 big draft picks that they had drafted, only one of those times did they make the playoffs. And even that one, they went all 7 games against San Jose. So this is a classic way of how you build your team. How do you build your team up to be a championship caliber team? There you go. You be bad for a few seasons. You end up winning a draft lottery. You end up, getting some pretty high draft picks. I mean, Rantanen went number 10, which still shocks me. But I mean, the other ones were McKinnon was number 1, Landeskog was a number 2, Makar and Byram were number 4 overall picks. So, this is kind of how you build that team. You build a team into the juggernaut that they are now. And they are going to be very, very tough to beat, whoever they play. Whether it's the Tampa Bay Lightning, whether it's the New York Rangers. The fact that you are going to have to beat this team 4 times in 7 games to win the Stanley Cup when they've only lost 2 games in 3 rounds, that's a tall task. That is a very, very tall task. Not saying that the Rangers or Lightning can't do it, but man, it's going to be something. It is going to be something. It's going to be something to watch. And Colorado, they're hoping Tampa Bay and New York, they're like, go all 7, go ahead. They're just sitting around. They're sitting around. They're resting. If they have anybody with some nagging injuries, they're getting them healthy. They're chilling. They are, the old Netflix and chill thing. Yeah, they're doing that right now, and they've looked so good. So, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think about how they've built this team over the last 11 years, 12 years, if you're thinking about it? What do you guys think of it, building this team? Is it good to be bad for a few seasons? Get the right picks. And getting the right picks, that shows how good their scouting is. Getting those right picks. Like I said, this is the kind of thing I wish the Minnesota Wild would have done. But it seems like these guys have done it right. They seem to have done it right, and they're right now they are being rewarded very nicely. They are waiting for an opponent in the 2022 Stanley Cup Final, and whoever they play, like I said, good luck, because these guys are going to be very, very tough to beat. So let me know your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you guys think they've done this right? Have they built this team the right way? Built it through the draft? Getting good trades. Making good trades, good decisions. Picking up the right goaltender. What are your guys' thoughts? I'd love to know what you guys think, because I think they've done a really great job building this team, and again, they're going to be very, very tough to beat. And it will not surprise me if at the end of the season, your 2022 Stanley Cup champions, Colorado Avalanche. It will not surprise me if that happens. But let me know your guys' ideas on that. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. And again, if you're new to the channel, hopefully you're able to make it all the way through the video. If you did and you liked it, hit that like button. If you really liked it, if you think I did a good enough job to earn a subscription, hit that subscribe button. Don't be afraid to tell some friends if you know anybody who likes hockey. It's my passion. It's what I love doing. I love talking hockey in any way, shape, or form. Videos like this, other news videos, jersey unboxings. Those are my favorite. Jersey unboxings are my absolute favorite. And hopefully soon when I get the rest of my jersey collection over from the storage shed, hopefully I'll be able to grab some of those and I can show some of the jerseys that I first bought when I first started collecting. That's something I'd like to do. I'd like to do also. Hopefully when those get over here from the storage shed, I will do that. Because some of them are pretty small. And if you think about it, some of those jerseys are 30 years old. 30 years old, some of them are. So I look forward to being able to show you guys those when they come over. And again, let me know what you guys think. Did Colorado do this right? Did they do it right by building through the draft, good scouting, making good trades? Because to me, it seems like they did, because here they are in the Stanley Cup final. But again, let me know your guys' thoughts on that. And again, if you're new to the channel and you're just cruising on through, hopefully you like the video. If you like the video, hit that like and subscribe button down there. And again, tell some friends if you have some friends who like hockey. I'd love to have you all be a part of the channel. And yeah, the 2022 Western Conference champion Colorado Avalanche. What a machine so far. Again, let me know your thoughts. Talk to you guys again pretty soon.